For 6 endless months, a lion slowly faded away, its head trapped inside a tree. No roar echoed across the savannah. No rescue ever came. Pain replaced strength. Silence replaced hope. Until one man stopped, looked closer, and made a decision that changed everything. Early one morning, the man was moving quietly through the African savannah, following a familiar path between scattered acacia trees. The air was dry, the grass brittle underfoot, and nothing seemed unusual at first. Then he noticed a shape beside a thick tree that did not move. As he stepped closer, his heart tightened. A full-grown male lion stood frozen, its massive head jammed deep inside a narrow hole in the tree trunk. The lion's body was painfully thin, ribs pressing against stretched skin. Its mane, once proud, hung dusty and tangled. The animal's eyes were half closed, breathing shallow and uneven. It did not roar or charge. It barely reacted. In that moment, the man realized this was not a predator waiting to attack. This was a creature slowly dying, unnoticed, in the middle of open land. Flies hovered around dried saliva at its mouth, and the smell of weakness filled the air, telling a story of suffering long before the man had arrived. He stood there in silence, realizing this discovery would haunt him forever from that moment on. No one knew the exact moment the lion became trapped, but the signs told a painful story. Months earlier, driven by hunger or curiosity, he had pushed his head into the tree, following the scent of prey or water hidden inside. At first, he must have believed he could pull free easily, but the tree was old and rigid, its opening narrow and unforgiving. Every struggle only wedged his skull deeper. As weeks passed, the dry season hardened the wood, tightening its grip. The lion tried again and again to escape, clawing the bark until his strength faded. Slowly, hunger took over. Unable to hunt, he survived on scraps left behind by other animals and whatever moisture he could lick from rain or dew. His muscles weakened, ribs rising sharply beneath thinning skin. Hyenas circled at a distance, sensing death, while vultures watched from the trees above. Still, the lion stood, trapped between standing and collapsing, unable to lie down or rest properly. Days blurred into nights. Pain became constant. His roars faded into weak breaths no one heard. The king of the savannah, once feared and respected, was reduced to waiting. Waiting for strength, waiting for death, or waiting for something that never came, until one man finally did. The man knew immediately how dangerous the situation was. Even weak, a lion was still a lion. One sudden movement, one wrong sound, and the trapped animal could lash out with fatal force. There was no vehicle nearby, no tranquilizer, no team standing behind him. The savannah was silent, and help was far away. Walking away would have been easy. Many would have done exactly that. But as the man watched, the lion slowly opened its eyes. They were not filled with rage. They were dull, tired, and strangely calm. For a long moment, neither moved. Fear battled compassion inside the man's chest. If he tried to help and failed, he could die. If he did nothing, the lion certainly would. The weight of that choice pressed down on him harder than the African sun. Finally, the man took a careful step forward. His hands trembled, but his decision was made. This was no longer about danger or fear. It was about refusing to turn away from suffering, even when it stood inches from death itself. He breathed slowly, steadying himself, aware that this moment might be his last. The wind moved through the grass, carrying the smell of dust and fear. Somewhere nearby, unseen eyes watched. Still, he stayed, choosing courage over instinct, compassion over survival. When silence felt heavier than danger itself, and time seemed to pause there. When help finally arrived, every movement was slow and deliberate. Tools were gathered, ropes prepared, and the plan whispered like a prayer. The lion barely lifted his head now, breath rattling, body swaying against the tree. One wrong strike could injure him, or trigger panic. The first cut bit into the wood, a sharp crack echoing across the savannah. The lion flinched, then went still. Sweat ran down every face as the hole widened inch by inch. Wood splintered, bark fell away, and time seemed to stretch painfully long. At last, the trunk loosened its grip. With a final careful pull, the lion's head slid free. His massive body collapsed onto the dry ground, unmoving. Everyone froze, expecting sudden violence. Seconds passed. The lion only lay there, exhausted, chest rising slowly. No roar came. No attack followed. Instead, silence wrapped the scene. The tree that had imprisoned him for 6 months stood broken, and beside it lay a king brought to his weakest moment. The rescuers stepped back, hearts pounding, unsure if they had saved a life or delayed something worse. Fear hung in the air as everyone waited. The lion's tail twitched once, dust rising softly. Muscles tightened, then relaxed. Slowly, painfully, he gathered strength, reminding them all that survival itself can be the bravest act of all. In that fragile pause, between danger and mercy, the rescue truly began, not with tools or strength, but with patience, respect, and the quiet hope that kindness had arrived before it was too late. For everyone watching, nothing would feel same. After what felt like an eternity, the lion stirred again. Slowly, painfully, he pushed against the earth, muscles trembling as if remembering how to work. Everyone held their breath. This was the moment they feared most. If he attacked, no one would be fast enough to escape. But the lion did not charge. He struggled to his feet, swaying, dust clinging to his weakened body. Then he turned. His eyes met the man's, not with fury, but with something quieter, something deeper. The savannah seemed to fall silent as the lion stood there, free at last, tasting the air of a world he had nearly lost. For a heartbeat, man and beast shared that space, bound by an unspoken understanding. The lion lowered his head slightly, not in submission, but in calm acknowledgement. Then, without a sound, he stepped away. Each step carried him farther from the tree, farther from suffering. He did not look back again. Days later, rangers would spot him drinking at a waterhole, stronger, moving with renewed purpose. Life had returned where death once waited. The man never forgot that moment. He did not speak of bravery or heroism. He spoke only of choice, of stopping when it was easier to walk away, of recognizing pain, even in something feared. In the end, the miracle was not just that a lion survived. It was that compassion crossed the line between species, proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the wild is not teeth or strength, but mercy. And somewhere beyond the trees, the king lived on.